Good morning guys, GirlInGrease here and welcome. So it's been a while since I've done a little video on my Jeep, a little work one, and I'm gonna be doing the brakes today. So I had sent my Jeep in a little while ago to get a noise checked out, and it turned out to be nothing other than my brake pads were just low. I had about 2 millimeters of brake pad left about 500 kilometers ago, so I figured that's probably about a good time to do the brakes. So I'm going to be doing that today. So let's get right into it. So here is everything that you guys are going to need for the job. Then you've got your punches, flathead screwdrivers, you've got your brake cleaner, WD-40, lubricant, and then the devil right here. This, everybody knows, gets on everything, but yes, you need that. And then we have bungee cords to kind of keep things together because there is a pressure clip on there, which you will see. And you're also going to need a size 20 eTorx socket, and I'll show you exactly what you need that for later. Then we have a 22 mil and we have a 13 mil, and we will get right into it.
Tell me you're no good. I'm brushing away the weight of you of my shoulder. Done with my cigarette.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to get the camera in here. There's a little tiny O-ring that you can see right here. Now this is what we're gonna be taking off step one. This will help us to be able to get the rotor off. So you're gonna need 2 small flatheads. What you're going to do is kind of dig it in, then slide the next one underneath like this, and it comes off just like that. The next step is spray some WD-40 kind of all along where you just took the O-ring out, and in each of the stud holes. This will make things a little bit easier for you when we take off the rotor. Step 2 is there's 2 little pins that you see on the caliper, and you're going to want to punch these out with a hammer and a small little punch. This is where you're going to want to lay your cloth, I'm going to put it down here, over top so that you don't damage the nice paint that's on here. Then use your smaller punch without the cloth and very carefully punch it out. So it's much easier to get the pin out when you have pressure on this little clamp that you can pull the pin out, and it's going to be really helpful if you have a long skinny Allen key to get through the hole all the way through to punch it out. So for the bottom one, because it's harder to hold a cloth, just be very careful that you don't hit the paint. This one's very, very easy to get out because there's not a lot of there's no pressure on this pin, so you can actually just even pull that out, just like that. Now the next step that you're gonna see, there's 3 pistons on either side that we have to release the hydraulic pressure on. So what you're gonna want is you want a little flathead screwdriver, and you wanna get in here and force the pads inward to release the pressure. My flathead was too big, so I'm gonna get in here and just push them in. There's one, there's two. The bottom one's a little bit harder to see. Now the next step is you're gonna take your E-Torques and you're gonna remove this and this. There's only two, so you wanna take your impact gun and we're gonna just load it in. One. Okay. Now, what you want to do is you want to support the caliper when you take the screw off because it's going to fall. Okay. Just like so. All right. Now, it's going to be hard for you to see, but the brake pads are in here. Okay, here's the old brake pads. Then, because it's still connected to the brake line, put the brake pads down. And then, that's where the bungee cords come in. Okay, so you don't want to have any pressure on the brake lines. So what I do is I just hook a bungee cord through and hang it on top here. I'll show you guys what I did. So you don't want any pressure on the brake line. So I take a nice bungee cord, loop it through, and I just have it hooked onto the shock here so there's no pressure on there. And now we have full access to get this off. All right, now the next step is before when you sprayed all the WD-40, it'll help get rid of a lot of the rust. But now what you wanna do is, because this is on here pretty good, there's parts of it that aren't, you just wanna hit it lightly, very lightly with a hammer. Do not touch this section at all because this is what we're gonna have lathed and you don't want it to be dented, okay? So the hammer. There we are.
What are you looking for when you look at me? You gotta know. I was
We're gonna open up these brake pads so you can see what they look like. Be very careful with them. So these are what the brake pads look like by Element. One thing to note, if your brake pad's inside your caliper, it doesn't fit with the rotor, you have to make sure that your pistons, these little holes right in here, are pushed in all the way, okay? Otherwise, it's not going to fit, and you're gonna be like, well, they sold me the wrong brake pads and such. It's just that you have to make sure that the pistons are all pushed in far enough so that you can get the brake pads and the rotor inside the caliper.
Don't you think we're done?
So once you have the rotor seated on with the E-Torx bolts at the back, you want to tighten it down to 121 feet-pounds of torque. All right, so the next step is you're gonna wanna put the bracket on. Make sure, because it's a little bit longer on one side than the other, make sure that the short side is on the bottom half, right like that. Okay. Actually, you know what we're gonna do is we're gonna try it on the top side. Okay, like that. So one of the problems I ran into was the brake pad wasn't seated properly. So I was having a hard time getting this pin in. So make sure that the brake pads are as close to this little tiny bolt that you see right in here as you can. Otherwise, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult for you to try and get the pins through. But other than that, it should be pretty smooth sailing. So what I didn't show in the previous video was you want to push this back as far as it'll go, and then take a larger flathead, and you're going to want to push on the O-ring to make sure it's seated properly. So I didn't show it before, I just kind of slipped it on and went about the rest of the installation. But you really want to make sure that the O-ring is seated properly all the way around.
Keep me open from the truth that keeps me holding on to your lies. What do you think you'll find me when you destroy what is inside me? I'll carry on.
So there are three options for you to tighten down your lug nuts. Option one, use an impact gun, and you do a couple ugga-duggas, and I don't really know how many you need because I don't do it this way. Second option is you use a torque wrench and use your body weight for those who are wussies. And for those of you who are not wussies and want to show your true strength, you just pull up. till you hear the click. Well, that was the video on doing the brakes. I know it was a bit of a longer video, but you know, you take a couple hours and you have to condense it down to 15 minutes. So I did my best. Yeah, it was a learning curve for me. I'd never done the brakes on my SRT. And I know there's probably some mechanics or, you know, professional shops out there that are kind of shaking your head on why you would do it that way. But I just used what I had and what I thought was comfortable for me to do. And I got the job done with no mishaps and nothing like that. The last step that you guys need to do is make sure that you break in your brakes. There's a proper procedure. You can look it up online on how you want to break them in slowly. And I'll maybe put a link in the description below to give you guys some tips on how to break your brakes in properly. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you're going to be changing your brakes, good luck, and I hope this video helped. Thank you for all of your support, and as always, we'll catch you next time.